The auditorium of Lincoln Middle School buzzed with proud parents and excited students. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the rows of folding chairs. My son Marcus sat in the front row, his certificate for Regional Science Fair champion clutched in his 12-year-old hands. I watched from the third row, my heart swelling with pride. He'd spent 6 months on his renewable energy project, working late nights in our garage, refusing to give up even when experiments failed. I remembered finding him asleep at his workbench more than once, his notebook still open beside him. The other award recipients sat alongside Marcus, each representing months of dedication and hard work. The principal had already announced 3 awards, and the audience applauded warmly for each student. My sister Jennifer slid into the seat next to me, fashionably late as always. She barely glanced at the stage where the principal was announcing awards. Her perfume was overwhelming in the small space, and she made no effort to quiet her entrance despite the ceremony being in progress. "Traffic was terrible," she whispered, not bothering to apologize. I nodded, keeping my eyes on Marcus. His name was called. He walked to the stage slightly nervous and accepted his trophy. The principal began explaining his innovative solar panel design that had impressed the judges. That's when Jennifer stood up. She walked straight down the aisle, heels clicking on the wooden floor. Before anyone could stop her, she grabbed the microphone from the principal's hand. "Let's be real here," Jennifer's voice boomed through the speakers. "He only won because his competition was weak this year." The auditorium went silent. Every head turned. Marcus froze on stage, his face crumpling. Jennifer continued, oblivious or uncaring. "I mean, a solar panel project? That's been done 1,000 times. Nothing original about it." I felt my hands grip the armrest, but I kept my expression neutral. My parents, sitting 2 rows ahead, turned around. Dad was chuckling. Mom wore that familiar smirk. "She's just being honest," Mom said loudly enough for others to hear. "Someone needs to keep these kids grounded." Dad nodded. "Can't let them get big heads over participation trophy stuff." The principal gently retrieved the microphone, but the damage was done. Marcus's eyes found mine, brimming with tears. I gave him a small smile and a nod. He stumbled off the stage as the next award was announced. After the ceremony, Jennifer cornered me in the parking lot. "Don't give me that look, Sarah," she said, adjusting her designer purse. "I did Marcus a favor. The real world doesn't give out trophies for mediocre work." "His project was selected from 200 entries," I said quietly. "Whatever." She waved dismissively. "Hey, did you think about my proposal? The investment I mentioned last month?" 3 weeks earlier, Jennifer had pitched her new startup, a boutique marketing agency targeting tech companies. She needed $50,000 to secure office space and hire her first employees. She'd presented spreadsheets, growth projections, the works. "I'm still considering it," I said. "Well, don't take forever. I have other investors interested." She clicked her car remote. "And maybe next time, enter Marcus in competitions with actual standards." I watched her drive away, then went to find my son. Marcus sat on a bench near the playground, his trophy lying beside him. "Hey champ," I said, sitting down. "She's right, isn't she?" His voice cracked. "My project wasn't that good." "Your project was brilliant." The judges' panel included 3 university professors and 2 engineers. "They chose you." "But Aunt Jennifer said." "Aunt Jennifer doesn't know what she's talking about." I put my arm around him. "And you know what? You don't need her approval, or anyone else's. You worked hard, you created something innovative, and you earned this." He leaned against me and we sat there until the parking lot emptied. That night, after Marcus went to bed, I opened my laptop. I pulled up the investment agreement Jennifer had sent, $50,000 for a 15% stake in her company. I'd been planning to sign it, to help my sister despite our complicated relationship. I thought about Marcus's face on that stage, about my parents' laughter, about Jennifer's complete lack of remorse. I opened my email and began typing. "Jennifer, after careful consideration, I've decided not to move forward with the investment in your startup. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. Sarah." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The next morning started normally. I made breakfast, got Marcus ready for school, and checked my emails. There was nothing from Jennifer. No angry response, no questions. Radio silence. At 9 o'clock my doorbell rang. A courier stood there with a large manila envelope. Sarah Mitchell? That's me. Sign here, please. I signed and took the envelope. It was heavy, official looking. I closed the door and opened it at my kitchen table. Inside were legal documents, company ownership papers. I started reading, confused at first. Then I saw it. Jennifer's startup, the one she'd pitched to me, wasn't just her company. According to these documents, I owned 67% of it. My signature was on incorporation papers dated 8 months earlier. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through old emails. They're 8 months back. Jennifer had sent me documents, asking me to review and sign what she called partnership papers for a future venture. I'd been dealing with Marcus's school issues at the time and had signed them quickly, trusting my sister. She'd incorporated the company with me as the majority shareholder without explicitly telling me. My phone rang. Jennifer. Did you get the papers? She sounded nervous. I did. Want to explain why I own most of your company? Look, it was just for the bank loan application. They wanted to see established investors. I was going to buy you out once we got funding. You made me a majority owner without telling me? It's just paperwork, Sarah. Don't make this a big deal. Does your bank know I'm the majority shareholder? Silence. Jennifer, does the bank know? They think you're an active investor who approved the loan. I leaned back in my chair. The pieces were falling into place. She needed my investment to make her first loan payment. Without it, she'd default. And as the majority owner, I'd be on the hook. So when you publicly humiliated my son yesterday, I said slowly, you didn't know I'd already decided not to invest. What? Sarah, come on. That has nothing to do with business. It has everything to do with it. I'm the majority owner, Jennifer. Which means I make the decisions. You can't do this. I have clients lined up, office space secured. Using loan money you can't pay back without my $50,000. I pulled up the documents on my computer. And according to these papers, any major business decision requires majority shareholder approval. That's me. Sarah, please. I'm your sister. I'm sending you formal documentation today. As majority shareholder, I'm exercising my right to review all business decisions. All client contracts need my approval. All expenses over $500 need my signature. And the office lease you signed? That needs ratification by the majority owner. You're being ridiculous. I'm being a responsible business owner, something you should have considered before you forged my involvement in your company. I heard her breathing heavily on the other end. This is about yesterday, isn't it? About Marcus. This is about you making me a secret majority owner of your company and then treating my family with contempt. Actions have consequences, Jennifer. I'll call Mom and Dad. Go ahead. They can't change corporate ownership documents. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Mom called. Sarah, what is this nonsense about you sabotaging your sister's business? I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm exercising my rights as the majority shareholder of a company she made me own without proper disclosure. She said it was just a formality. Then she committed fraud, Mom. She used my name to secure a business loan without my knowledge or consent. You're being petty because of what happened at Marcus's little ceremony. His little ceremony? He won a regional championship against 200 other students. He beat entries from private schools with unlimited budgets. Jennifer was just being honest. The boy needs to learn to handle criticism. There's a difference between constructive criticism and public humiliation. She grabbed a microphone at a school event to belittle a 12-year-old child. You always were too sensitive. We're just trying to prepare Marcus for the real world. And Jennifer needs to learn that actions have consequences. Kept my voice level. I own 67% of her company. She should have thought about that before publicly humiliating my son. We raised you better than this. Family comes first. Family should treat each other with respect. Something you and Dad never seemed to grasp when it came to me and Marcus. No, you raised me to accept being treated poorly. I'm done with that. I hung up before she could respond. The next few days were chaos. Jennifer sent dozens of emails, veering between apologetic and threatening. My parents called repeatedly. Dad even showed up at my house demanding I stop this childish revenge. I didn't budge. I hired a lawyer to review the company documents. It turned out Jennifer had not only made me the majority owner but had been using my name on multiple loan applications. My credit was tied to her business. If it failed, I'd be liable for hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who specialized in corporate fraud, laid out the full extent of it. 3 separate business loans, all listing me as the primary investor and majority stakeholder. Jennifer had even fabricated email correspondence to make it appear that I was actively involved in business decisions. You have grounds for a lawsuit, Patricia said, sliding the documents across her desk. This is textbook identity fraud for financial gain. The bank would be very interested to know its loan was approved based on falsified investor information. My lawyer sent Jennifer a formal letter. Either she bought out my shares at fair market value, which she couldn't afford, or I would take active control of the company's operations. She chose option 3. She called a family meeting. We met at a restaurant, Jennifer, my parents, and me. Marcus was at a friend's house. You're destroying my dream, Jennifer said as soon as I sat down. You destroyed it yourself when you committed fraud using my identity. It wasn't fraud. You signed the papers. Papers you misrepresented. My lawyer disagrees with your interpretation. Dad leaned forward. This is family, Sarah. You don't lawyer up against family. She made me legally responsible for a business without my informed consent. That's exactly when you get a lawyer. Mom shook her head. All this because she spoke her mind at a school event? No. All this because she committed fraud, publicly humiliated my child, and expected me to give her $50,000 with no consequences. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I apologized to Marcus. You sent a text that said, "Sorry if you were offended." That's not an apology. What do you want from me? I pulled out a folder. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to buy me out of the company at the valuation my lawyer determined. You have 6 months to secure alternative funding. During that time, I maintain approval rights over major decisions. You will also write a proper apology to Marcus, acknowledging that what you said was wrong and hurtful. I can't raise that kind of money in 6 months. Then you'll have to get creative. Maybe pitch to those other investors you mentioned. They don't exist, she admitted quietly. You were my only real option. Then you should have treated me and my family with respect. My parents stared at me like I was a stranger. When did you become so cold? Mom asked. I'm not cold. I'm done being a doormat. I stood up. Jennifer, you have until Friday to agree to these terms. Otherwise, my lawyer files for full operational control of the company, and I'll run it myself. I left them sitting there. Friday came. Jennifer signed the agreement. She had 6 months to buy me out. In the meantime, every business decision crossed my desk. The first thing I did was reject the expensive downtown office lease she'd signed. Too much overhead for a startup. I found her a better space for half the cost. Then I reviewed her client contracts. 2 of them were underpriced to the point of guaranteeing losses. I renegotiated them. Within 3 months, the company was actually profitable. Jennifer hated that I was right, but she couldn't argue with the numbers. She also wrote Marcus a real apology, 3 pages handwritten, acknowledging how wrong she'd been and how impressive his achievement was. Marcus kept it in his desk drawer. My parents stopped speaking to me for 2 months. Eventually, Dad called. Your sister's business is doing well, he said. I know. I review the reports weekly. She says you might let her buy you out early. If she secures proper funding and demonstrates 6 months of stable profit, yes. He was quiet for a moment. I didn't know she'd misrepresented those documents. She didn't forge them. She misrepresented them. There's a difference, legally speaking. Still, that wasn't right. It was the closest he'd come to acknowledging I had a point. No, it wasn't. And what she said to Marcus, your mother and I shouldn't have laughed. No, you shouldn't have. Another pause. Think we could come to his birthday next month? I thought about it. If you can treat him with the respect he deserves, yes. We can do that. 6 months later, Jennifer secured funding from a legitimate investor. She bought out my shares at the agreed price. The company was thriving under the systems I'd put in place. We weren't close anymore. Probably never would be. But there was a new understanding. She knew I wouldn't tolerate disrespect, and my parents knew their favoritism had limits. Marcus kept his trophy on his desk. He was working on a new project, something involving water purification. When I asked if he wanted to enter it in next year's competition, he didn't hesitate. Definitely, he said. And Aunt Jennifer can keep her opinions to herself. I smiled. That's my boy. Sometimes standing up for yourself means standing alone. But watching my son work on his project with confidence, knowing he had a mother who would protect him even from family, made every uncomfortable conversation worth it. The award ceremony had changed everything, just not in the way my sister had intended.